Hello and welcome to the Assay. Today I'm here with Pierre Gratton, President and CEO of the Mining Association of Canada. So, Pierre, thanks very much for joining us online today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And maybe we can just start. Can you give us a quick introduction to yourself and your work at the Mining Association of Canada?
Sure. I'm the president and CEO of the Mining Association of Canada. I've been in this role for almost 15 years now, but I've worked in the mining industry since, going on more than 25 years.
Okay, great. And so, what are some of the Mining Association's key areas of focus? And, how does this relate to the overall importance that you see for the association, for the Canadian mining industry overall, and kind of broader society?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's many public policy areas that we focus on, but probably, the top couple are, the regulatory approvals process. As we all know, we need to get more mines built to provide the materials we need for especially critical minerals these days.
Hmm.
And also, of course, tax policy. Canada is a pretty expensive jurisdiction, and we need to remain competitive. We have obvious strengths compared to other parts of the world, such as, a very highly skilled, educated workforce. It's a high tech sector. We have, political stability. We have, a very good, legal framework in place. We have very strong geoscience, but we are high cost, and so we need to always focus on how do you incentivize investments into this country as opposed to investments in other countries.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's interesting you bring up the critical minerals, kind of the push for more critical mineral supply domestically. It's definitely kind of a big push globally for kind of domestic critical minerals supplies. There's been a lot of talk about what, US Canada relations and how all of the geopolitics are impacting the industry today. Have you yourself kind of seen some trickle down effects happening, since PDAC, and since kind of the tariffs have been announced? Have you seen some big impacts in the industry in Canada?
Well, it's interesting you should say that because one of the sort of key features of the Trump the big Trump tariff announcement the beginning of April was essentially that critical minerals were exempt, not just from Canada but from around the world. At first, we thought it was just Canada. We thought we maybe had an actual advantage. Um, but if you're at least able to define yourselves as an exporter of critical minerals within the context of the Canada, US, Mexico Free Trade Agreement, then you're tariff free. But they've also made a point with all of their other tariff announcements around the world to also keep critical minerals, as defined by the US critical minerals list, um, tariff free, which I think really, is a strong indication of the importance of critical minerals for the United States, but really for the world.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
That's not to say, though, I mean, we're still obviously really concerned about tariffs more broadly, the impact that's going to have on the global economy. We're seeing how the stock markets are responding. We're seeing talks of a global recession. The impact that can have on commodity prices is unknown at this point, but not expected to be great. So overall, this is, we don't think this move by the Trump administration is a positive one for the sector.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of waiting to see what's going to happen globally with economies around the world is certainly I think something on everyone's mind. Um, so just to change kind of focus a little bit, looking at the Mining Association of Canada. So you established this TSM in 2004, which is one of the first mining standards in the world to require site level reporting with
The
external.
first, the
Okay, so
very
it is the
first.
first. Um, can you tell us a little bit more about how this works and how mining companies can get involved?
Sure. So actually a condition of membership. So if you want to be a member of MAC, you have to implement this program at all of your operating sites in Canada. And what it requires is every year the mines have to undertake a self assessment of their performance against now 34 separate indicators covering a wide range of areas, from biodiversity conservation to safety of workers to tailings management and so on. And every 3 years, they have to do and complete an external verification of that performance. So it's a third party that comes in to confirm the performance of the mine. And all of these results every year are published on our website. And it was the very first. There are other standards that have emerged since. But in the meantime, TSM has also expanded around the world. We now have 12 other mining associations worldwide that have adopted TSM and are in the process of either fully implemented it or are in the process of implementing it. And we're also expecting to potentially sign agreements with new mining associations later this year. So it continues to grow.
Okay, that's great. And do you see kind of positive impacts with in terms of these kind of criteria that you work with TSM? Are you seeing kind of positive impacts from the mining companies themselves?
Well, it's certainly helped the industry perform better,
Hmm.
and I think it's helped their bottom line. If you have fewer things going wrong, if you're managing your risks better, you're protecting your company. Um, and in some cases, like with tailings management, a tailings failure can destroy a company.
Hmm.
So making sure that you're actually managing your operations, carefully and well is good business practice. Also, some parts of the world, particularly Europe, Europe's very keen to get more materials from Canada.
Hmm.
But one of the reasons why is they want to purchase from jurisdictions that can demonstrate high levels of environmental and social performance. And Canada can do that through TSM. Um, So there are other sort of advantages to being able to demonstrate worldwide that we're one of the most responsible sectors on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly kind of a strong business case for adopting these practices. Um, and so from your perspective, what needs to be done more in Canada to promote the industry? And I suppose kind of get the broader general population kind of on board or kind of more bought into the mining industry and what it's doing.
Actually, Canada's we're fortunate in that we've been measuring sort of Canadians' attitudes towards mining for the last 15 years since I became CEO. And that support has been consistently strong, but also improving. Um, there, I think Canadians generally recognize and know that mining has historically always been an important sector for Canada, but more recently, that awareness has actually been increasing. I think because of a lot of the focus on critical minerals, there's sort of a growing recognition that the things that we use in everyday life come from ultimately came from mined products, from our cell phones to our cars and so on. So um, there's a high appreciation for it. I think we've also made huge progress over the last 20, 25 years, 30 years in our, sort of collaborative approach with Indigenous peoples, over 500 agreements across the country between the mining sector and Indigenous communities. That has also helped, I think, grow the industry. So, uh, and I think, on a go forward basis, that's just got to continue to intensify. Um, what we've really been focusing on from a policy perspective, as I said at the top, is we do need to sort of speed up the approvals process. Um, the Minister of Natural Resources has talked about how it can't take 25 years to bring a mine into production. Or uh, there are long lead times. I mean, that's excessive. We do have projects get through the process in 5 years, but we really should be looking to reduce that further
Mhm.
if we're to meet the challenges we need. And I mean, one of the key risks we face, for example, is our mineral reserves have declined over the last 25 years. We produce 60% less copper than we used to, 60% less nickel than we used to. We need to turn that around. We're only going to do that by finding new projects and permitting them and bringing them into production.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that kind of brings to us kind of nicely to my last question, which is really, talking to a global audience that we have here at the Assay. Any kind of key messages that you want to share about the industry in Canada, and just things that, junior miners, investors should know about getting involved.
Well, we're in the middle of an election, as you know,
Hmm.
and both of the leading parties are talking a lot about mining and they're talking a lot about getting more projects built. So that's encouraging. Both are talking about improving the tax competitiveness of the sector. In the last few years, the current government has implemented a number of important tax credits that support mining. That job's not done. There's still some improvements that I think we need to make, and actually that the current government has acknowledged they need to make. Um, and both are talking about speeding up the regulatory process. Of course, there's only so much the federal government can do because the provinces also play a major role. They're the primary regulator, and people often forget that actually a lot of the delays take place at the provincial level, not federal. But nevertheless, the focus and the attention on project approvals and timelines is welcome. So I think the trajectory is positive for the sector. I think the global investors should look seriously at Canada.
Hmm.
We have a long history of mining. We do it well. There's great Canadian leadership, and I think there's the potential for Canada to supply a lot more to the world and do it in a responsible way.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds like a really kind of nice way to wrap things up and send that message out about the Canadian industry to the world. So, Pierre, I want to thank you for joining us here today at the Assay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.